Hi Navigating Academia family, my name is Rachel and these are my top 3 tips for getting into a Master's of Arts in Psychology, but my tips are pretty general so they can be applied to other disciplines as well. So first is to research. You want to, of course, understand and identify what programs have what courses, what practicums, what kind of benefits are involved in Program A to Program C. So Program A may have a combination of courses and a practicum, but maybe Program C has a better practicum with a placement that you really want to be involved in, and then of course the courses that you're extremely interested in. It's all about identifying those key details and what distinguishes one program from another, and being sure that you of course understand the general requirements for the program. So of course, most programs require a 3.7 GPA, and then of course an honors thesis. If it's research-based, sometimes they don't. You just want to, of course, make sure that you understand that you meet those requirements, and if you don't, then make sure to find practical experience or even pursue like an honors thesis so that you can meet those requirements when you apply, because otherwise you could be rejected from the program. And then, of course, once you have those relevant experiences put in place, then if you need practical field experience for applying for an MSW, which is a Master's of Social Work, then you'll want to ensure that you strategically place key requirements in your CV and your statement of intent or purpose. Then when programs are going through and looking for those key requirements, they see, oh yes, applicant 247 has this, this, and this, and oh look, they even reference this in their statement of purpose. And then you can kind of use that in your statement of purpose to show how you're a great candidate for this program. My second tip is that grades don't really matter. So they matter to a certain extent, but they're not a defining feature of your application. So for instance, when I was applying last year to graduate school, I applied to 6 programs. And I also had a friend who was applying to 6 programs. They had above a 4.0 GPA on a 4.33 scale, and they were rejected from every single one. My GPA was a little bit less than a 4.0, and I was accepted into 2 programs, and I'm evidently currently enrolled in one right now. I'm in my first year. And one of the key details between us was that I sought out practical experience in relevant fields. So we were both applying to experimental psychology. This other individual did apply to a couple of applied programs in clinical psych, but those are pretty competitive, as most of us are aware. So just before I had applied to grad school, I had just completed a research practicum with my thesis advisor at the time. I was also involved in several clubs such as the Boxing Club and the English Society. I was the president. I was a tutor privately, and then of course at the university where I taught in subjects ranging from English to psychology, and then I also taught people how to box in our Learn to Box session at my university as well. So having those extracurriculars or even practical experience was very beneficial for my application. And then I made sure that I kind of framed that in a way that was strategic in my CV. So for instance, under teaching experience, I put that I was an assistant boxing coach for the boxing club at my university. That kind of shows that I have some leadership and teamwork skills that are very beneficial for a lab setting. You want to make sure that you can highlight those in just a strategic manner in your CV, and then if it's relevant, then you can even describe those in your statement of intent. My third tip is to, of course, not be afraid of failure. Failure is something that is very devastating for all of us. No one really likes the thought of failure. In fact, last year when I had applied to graduate school, I had this one specific program that I was very interested in. I had created a great rapport with the prospective advisor that I wanted to work with. It seemed like they would potentially choose me as a graduate student for the 2021 to 2022 2 application cycle. However, with COVID, everything was restructured. So instead of it being primarily up to the prospective advisor, the institution put in place a committee in which they were to select the applicant that would be accepted rather than the advisor. So that changed a lot of things because I had planned to go to this program, but then unfortunately I didn't get in. And I remember thinking that this was the end, that I wouldn't ever get into graduate school. And I know it's devastating and it's awful to be rejected simply. But I remember at one point I was looking through a series of images and I found this image that said, fail, first attempt in learning. And I find that this is a beneficial way of looking at failure as an opportunity of not yet. So that means that if you don't get into this application cycle, or maybe you're scared of going and applying to a program because you're going to get rejected, the odds are you're going to get rejected from a program because there are thousands of other students applying. In fact, York University had, I think, 600 students apply to their clinical psychology program, and only 6 were admitted. I don't know what percentage of admittance that rate that would be, but that would be extremely low, and then an extremely high rejection rate. So it has nothing to do with you not being a great, well-rounded individual. It mostly has something to do with the ability to comprehensively communicate that you are a great candidate for the program. But then sometimes it just means trying and trying again. Sometimes it's that frame of not yet that can help you strengthen your application for the future. So let's just say, theoretically, potentially you get rejected this year. That doesn't mean that you won't ever get in, it just means not yet. So my recommendation then is to take failure as a frame of not yet and then apply that to a way that you can build off that. So what about your application wasn't great? What didn't set you apart from other applicants? So were you lacking in practical experience? Maybe you don't have an honors thesis that you forgot to look into, that's a requirement of the program. Look into the requirements again, maybe go through your documents with a mentor or even Dr. Singh himself, because he offers that service, and identify what you didn't have this year that you can improve upon next year. Maybe that means going and applying for an internship and doing an internship while you apply for next year, or even volunteering at a library to read to kids. Sometimes it's just those little things that can help set you apart, and then also pinpointing those experiences and showing how you are a great candidate based on those experiences in your CV, because that creates a narrative that committees can connect with. Hopefully these help, and best of luck in your applications, guys.